Good evening. My name is Rob Epstein, and I am honored, thank you. It is truly my honor to be one of three governors representing the fantastic documentary branch here at the Academy, so welcome. Along with fellow governors Michael Apted and Michael Moore, welcome to our annual evening celebrating the nominees in the documentary categories. What a terrific year it's been for nonfiction film, right? Truly. Truly, every one of this year's nominated documentaries is artful, important, and Oscar-worthy. So congratulations to all the nominees. Last year, when I introduced the moderator for this program, much to Michael's dismay, I said he was a man who needed no introduction. And then I proceeded to give him an introduction. But this year I'm going to stick to my word. So without any further ado, please welcome, for the second year in a row, a mighty force in the documentary field and community, Academy Award-winning filmmaker, author, and governor, Michael Moore.
Thank you very much. I said, just mention that I'm an Eagle Scout. That's no one ever says that in an introduction of mine. Or I won the Pinewood Derby one time. Thank you. And of course, I won the NRA Marksman Award as a 12-year-old. Which brings me back to 10 years ago at the Oscars. The Oscars 10 years ago, where we were fortunate enough to win for Bowling for Columbine. And thank you. And I had a few words to say that night. And I learned how the microphone goes down automatically into the stage, and the band starts playing very quickly. And but it was the fourth night of the war, and it was a confusing time for a lot of people. Here we are 10 years later, and especially with the issue of guns and violence in our society, sometimes it feels, when you make a documentary film, and I know many of the filmmakers here tonight have the same feeling, is we start out with the best of intentions, those being that this film will matter. This film will do something to make anything a little bit better. And it's sort of what keeps us going, because unlike a fiction film, which can be shot in 8 weeks, edited in another 8 weeks, our films take a year, 2, 3, 4, sometimes longer years to make. And then in the edit room, that's just the shooting. And then we go to the edit room, and that's where the film really begins, because we don't know what we're going to get when we go out there to shoot. So you can't really write the film until you're in the edit room. It's a crazy process. You shoot the film first, then you write it. And so it's a very difficult thing. And of course, we're all very grateful to our editors, because they are essentially our co-writers, because they are in the edit room with us, writing and putting that movie together. So a hand for the editors who are here tonight. So we make these movies in the hopes that the world, or just maybe even a small piece of it, will be a better place. We make them in part so that you, for a couple of hours, will have a fascinating experience in a movie theater, where you walk out of there at the end of it exhilarated, upset, thrilled, full of questions. All the things that great documentaries do, that you can't get it out of your head an hour later, a day later, a week later. And we go for that too, because we've chosen cinema as our avenue. We could have done other things. We could have run for office. We could have joined an organization. We could have milked cows. We could have done any of a number of things. But we chose the movies because we like the movies. We like the idea of going and sitting in the dark with a group of strangers and forgetting everything else that's going on and letting that what's up there on that screen take us to a place that we haven't gone before. And these days, I just want to paraphrase what Michael Apted said last night. We had a dinner honoring the documentary nominees, both the feature docs and the short docs. And Michael Apted said to the documentary filmmakers there that we live in a time where television news is for shit. Michael's a British gentleman. He actually didn't use that word, but I'm just translating. We live in a time where newspapers are dying or dead, gone. And he said to the documentary filmmakers present, it's really going to be up to you and the others who are going to come along to tell the stories that the media no longer tells. Doesn't invest the time to tell it, won't put the money into telling it, and is beholden to the 5 large corporations that control the vast majority of our media, of our information. And in a free society, that's never really a very good idea, to have the concentration of power into so few hands. And so I want to echo that to those of you who are the nominees here tonight. Make more of these movies. This group of films this year are absolutely incredible. You're going to see clips from all of them here tonight. The shorts are powerful and emotional. The features are some of the most provocative documentaries I've seen since I've been a documentary filmmaker. This has been a very powerful year for movies. I'm very proud of the fact that our branch decided to change the voting process so that instead of having panels or committees decide the nominees, everyone in the branch voted on these 5 nominees. So these 5 nominees represent the true feeling of the 170 or so members in the documentary branch. But it didn't just stop there, because the other change the Board of Governors made this year, much to our happiness, is that for the very first time, the entire Academy this year, all 6,000 members, are voting on the documentary category. It's on the ballot with all the other categories equally with everybody else. And the Academy decided, because this was the first time we're doing this, to spend the money to send a DVD of each of the 5 feature films to all 6,000 members. That's 30,000 DVDs that the Academy had made and mailed to the 6,000 members, all at their expense, at the Academy's expense. And so a lot more people got to watch documentaries during this Oscar season. And whoever wins on Sunday night will be a fair representation of how the 6,000 members, your peers, feel about the films that you made. I can say this, the reporters out there were asking, well, who do you think's going to win? And I said, I think everybody is going to win. And I mean that in a somewhat less facetious way, because I honestly believe, because these films are so good this year, if I could look in to see how the voting was going, I'm sure that it's very close. It's very close. There isn't like a runaway. They're all runaways this year. And you'll see. If you haven't seen them yet, you'll see clips here tonight. Please rent them, get them on Netflix, download them. I guess I shouldn't say that, but if you download them, send a little check to the filmmaker. You can get their address online and say, I watched your movie for free. I feel bad. Here's $20. But we're very excited about the democratization of our branch and of our art form, nonfiction art form, nonfiction cinema. And so thank you to those of you who are Academy members who participated in that this year. Please do it again next year. We're looking forward to all the great films we're going to see in 2013. So I think it's time to get started here tonight. Here's how it's going to work. We're going to start with the documentary shorts. And you're going to see a clip package that runs about 20 minutes, where you're going to see, it's not trailers, you're going to see actual scenes from these incredible movies. And then I will bring the directors and producers, the nominees, up on the stage here, and we will have a discussion about their movies and about documentaries in general, and about airport security. And and then they will leave the stage, and we will show you a package of clips from the feature nominees, and then they will come on the stage, and we'll have a great conversation with the five nominated films, the makers of those films here this year. That's how the evening goes. We hope you enjoy it. We're honored to be here. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be in the company of these great filmmakers. And I said to my wife after watching all the nominees and the ones on the short list this year, don't you feel just a little less alone? Like, this is really that there's so many more people with this technology and these ideas, and you'll see an international group of people up here tonight. I'm very optimistic about the future of nonfiction cinema, and I hope you are too. So let's get started here with a look at the 5 nominated films for documentary short, and I'll be back. Thank you.
Bye, dog. I have too many dreams. I can't tell you all of them. If you couldn't dream, it's like not having a purpose. Because when you dream, it's like you want to get that dream accomplished. So if you can't dream, there's nothing to live for. I wouldn't change anything that's happened to me in the past because I think in the end it's made me who I am. I keep having this dream. It feels so real and it's pretty crazy. I remember being on the beach and it was really, really hot, but I like the hot. And I'm pregnant, and I'm with my husband. I don't have a husband, but in my dream I knew he was my husband because I could feel that he loved me. I walked to the ocean, and I realized that my husband tied a string around my wrist. In case I got scared, he would pull me back. It was really, really pretty, like clear blue, like pool water blue. Then this really big, beautiful whale comes swimming towards me. It was scary, but for some reason I felt really safe. I don't turn back. Its huge body moves right past me and disappears into the deep blue. And I'm okay. See, that's silly. If I didn't have silly dreams, I'd be totally depressed. Because although those dreams are silly, they're fun. And just imagining how it would be like, it's pretty exciting.
When I look around, it's frightening. There are more singles living here than there were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And it begins to, it's not that it's frightening because this is just the way life goes, but you don't know what you want to do. Do you want to stay here? Do you want to go back to New York to where your children are? And if you do that, it's not the best thing either. It's not. They have their own lives, you have your life. Your grandchildren have their lives. It's not a very good trade. Staying here is just about the only thing you can do because you know people here, you have a life here. In New York, there's no such a life. And you don't have the time to make it a new life.
Not sick people, very sick in here. Very sick, both of them. Alzheimer's.
We're going to the store.
Hi. Oh, that's nice. It's an outing. I once got sick. They wouldn't come near. They thought I was contagious. I don't know what I had, but they wouldn't come near on the phone. So what are you doing? I said, I'm sick. I can't go out. That's it. And there was only one, the sickest one in the whole neighborhood. She said, I'm not afraid. I'm dying anyway. She had hepatitis. She says, what do you want? I'll go get you anything you want. She came in and everything. Everybody else wouldn't, but she came in. But not them. I'm telling you. They're all of them sitting like by the pool. They're chummy mummies.
Not everyone feels very good. And not everybody wants to hear what the next one has to say. In other words, I don't want to know your complaints. I have my own. Or, and nobody means it. They really don't mean it. I know I don't mean it. But it's just a form of, you just don't want to hear something that is not very good anymore. Self-preservation is number one. Always, no matter what it is. At what age, it doesn't matter. Self-preservation is number one, always.
That's the story here. Pretty over here, isn't it? Our view. The golf course.
Most women say that to see clumps is more upsetting than not having a hair at all.
Waking up and having your pillow be like a little forest. It's really messy, and now that I cut it this much, I think I'm ready to actually
Buzz it down.
buzz it, yeah.
Just take a deep breath. Do you want me to bring Cynthia back or anybody? Just to sit and talk to you while we do it? Or, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Let me grab Cynthia really quick.
Do you want to sit on my lap?
You can sit on our lap. We have boosters too.
I love. This is a good thing.
Oh, wow.
It's gonna be okay. I promise you.
Doing great. You're doing really
You
good.
really are.
You're awesome.
You're doing amazing.
have a funny shaped head or anything?
You actually
Any
have
big
a
bumps?
very nice head.
No, I could put a towel on.
Okay, good, perfect.
I'm gonna take a peek first.
Take a moment.
Holy hell. Okay,
Feels
I
good
can do
though,
that.
right? You could do that.
Yeah, I can do this. This is okay. All right.
Any deal?
Yep.
Come on over to the sink.
Bravo.
Let's give you a nice exfoliate.
My poor honey.
When I lost it, I started crying.
For me to say goodbye to my hair, it's definitely, it's making a point that now I have to face the fact that, yes, I am a cancer patient. So for me, it's devastating.
It's like your hair is part of your identity, and that's been taken, and then your eyebrows start to thin, and then your eyelashes fall out, and you feel like you're being erased.
Because of cancer, I don't feel like a woman, and I feel like an alien.
I got out my clippers, and we went in and shaved her head, and we were like kind of like twins at that point.
No wonder why guys wear wigs. Except most men can't get a decent wig. Frank Sinatra had a good wig.
Yeah.
But he had a lot of money.
Yeah.
If I put a wig on, sometimes I put her wigs on. I said, do I look stupid? The Beatles are back.
My husband, I don't think he's prepared for me to die. I think he's envisioned it and gone over it in his head. But I think he's really, it's almost like he's holding his breath, waiting for that shoe to drop. The unfortunate part is that he's been holding his breath for a long time. He's running out of breath. He's a Mr. Fix-It. Always a Mr. Fix-It. But this was something he couldn't fix.
When I first saw her, I think it was like 9th grade. I always liked the way she walked. I always liked her legs. She had a certain way that she walked all the time, and I always loved that. Got married a year after we graduated high school. Guess the rest is history. I sit here and watch how she's changed. And with the cancer's changed her. It's just eating her up. She never did anything to hurt anybody.
Bite, meze neza? Barimo baraguha umwuka. This is just to humidify the... Warashushanyije neza?
Yari yambwiye ngo wamubujije kurya umunyu.
You know, I was fighting with Angelique in the airplane. When they gave her the food, she said, "No, there is salt." I said, "I'm your doctor. I allow you to eat." She said, "No." My God. Oh, they are doing well. That's good.
Tugiye kugenda mu kanya.
Marie is a 17 years old girl. Mitral regurgitation is massive, it's very severe.
I'm very dubious about the feasibility of repairing his valve.
Maria nyine nabyibagijeho nyine kubera yuko numvise ataje ntekereza icyatumye ataza ariko nuko
akajarira nzasura bambwa ngo yapfuye kandi noneho aramuka agiye ndafati ko burya iyo umuntu yabuze umubyeyi akasigarira aho ngaho
Yes. Ciao. 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 Oh, we are a little bit drunk. Yes.
Normal vein. There's a huge left atrium. Yes. Really huge.
Can you see me? Touchdown!
And that looks like about it for that. I'm a 60-year-old Vietnam veteran. I've been collecting cans 8-10 years. And this is a full-time job. Because if you don't do it full-time, you ain't gonna get what you need.
I just left a bunch of bottles, cans, on the corner right over there by that stoplight.
By the stoplight?
Yeah, right by,
Okay.
on that corner.
All right, thank you. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 45, 50, 55 cents. All right. God bless him. I see you've been working, guy, huh? There are people out here totally dependent on what they make canning. They are out here day and night canning to survive. There was a time when you can get any kind of odd job over here and you didn't think about canning or anything like that. Hey, babe. They always knew faces, you know. They come. I don't know where they come from, but they sure do come. My name's Walter.
Charles.
All right, man, Charles. Well, you just got about $5 right there.
You gotta do what you can to survive.
Yeah.
There's so many people out here doing it now.
I know.
Compared to a year ago, you got like triple the people out here.
Before you started doing this, man, what were you doing before?
Actually, I was cooking in a restaurant.
Me too, man.
I used to
get
be a
the
cook.
fuck out of
I
here.
used to cook for hula heads.
I was short order cook, man,
Yeah.
downtown.
Yeah.
Hey, man, nice meeting you, man.
All right. All right.
See you in the neighborhood, okay?
Okay.
All right, man. Yeah, everybody used to have a job. Now, getting a job, man, is like hitting the lotto. $50 cans, $2.50. Walnuts and aromatic herbs coated in dark chocolate. That's 450 cans. 100 million cans for this townhouse.
Well, I went to the screening in New York last week where we voted. The New York branch or the New York crowd voted on these, and so we're all in the Academy Theater there. And it starts, I think, with the film on the homeless teenager, and then goes to the old people who are dying, and then to the breast cancer. And then when the kids came on who needed open heart surgery, I heard someone in the back go, "No! No! Oh, the humanity!" It was like, the world is just such a horrible place. That is the purpose of the documentary short subject, to remind you. No, but these are really, if you get a chance to see these, can you get them on iTunes now? Are they available or will be available? Or, you know, how can people see these?
Innocente just was available on iTunes a couple days ago, so you can download it there.
And the rest of you just go to YouTube or?
Kings Point will be on HBO March 11th.
HBO March 11th?
HBO later this year.
HBO later this year?
Download it and send us $20.
You must be the producer of that film, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Keith?
HBO in the fall, and we'll take the money too.
HBO in the fall. And
HBO later this year.
And HBO later. Wow. This is like the HBO Oscars. Except you guys. Yeah. So, yeah, that begs the question then. How come HBO didn't fund this film? What was wrong with you?
Our next film is on HBO.
Oh, I see. How did you then put this together without the help of the great and wonderful Sheila Nevins?
She's behind the curtain.
No, the late show tonight, we'll have Sheila. It'll be Real Sex 32 or whatever. That's a documentary. Yeah.
Our film was privately put together. Like we have amazing producers working on this, and they're here, Alvy Hecht and Yael and Ryan Brooks, and there's others. But it was a group activity. It takes a village.
I mean, there are people out there that want to see films about social issues, so they put money up to do that, and we're lucky enough to know some of those people, and they believe in these things. Alvy Hecht from Shine Global, who produced our film, he with Yael and Ryan, but Alvy's group Shine Global is to end the exploitation of children through film. That's pretty amazing.
Well, it's a very powerful movie. Their film is Innocente, right? Is that correct? Yeah. And it's about a homeless teenage girl here in Los Angeles. And it's a very powerful movie, but yet a hopeful one, too, because she's an incredible talent and really makes you wonder how much other art, how much other talent we're missing from people that otherwise don't have an avenue, certainly don't have a means because of the growing divide, economic divide in our society. Which makes me want to ask you this, because I think about this all the time with films, especially documentary films, and especially shorts. we can show all these problems that exist. There's homelessness, cancer, the street people in New York. At any point during the making of the film, do you say to yourself, as journalists, because this is what documentary is, we're doing the basic, the who, what, when, where, how, but not often so much the why. Why are there so many people walking around Los Angeles with a shopping cart? Why haven't we licked cancer better by now? How can the Upper West Side of New York tolerate people having to survive like that? And I'll just throw this question out to any of you, anybody who wants to take it, because I know that's the harder thing to deal with. You can show the homelessness, you can tell how it happened, you can tell where it is, but why is it? And what is our responsibility as documentary filmmakers to ask that question, or to answer, or help to answer that question, why?
Well, 30 years ago, when my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, this was before pink ribbons. This was before we even said breast. I mean, that was a bad word. We called it lung cancer. And so working on Mondays at Racine, it was actually inspiring because you saw change happen and you saw things get better. It wasn't the death sentence that it was 30 years ago. When I saw my mother go to a wig store with a lot of shame. And Cambria...
Did your mother survive?
No, she died 30 years ago, January. And so it was incredibly inspiring because things get better. And I think that was one of the reasons we wanted to tell this story and help people feel less alone.
A friend of mine always says that structural problems demand structural solutions. And I think that all of these films show really deep structural problems. And the why is ultimately our film is about like a little girl and, 8 little kids who need surgery. And if you look at the larger issue of global inequity and social justice and healthcare, which I know you know quite a bit about, there are deep structural problems that do require structural solutions. And then why is it tolerated? I mean, why is it okay for, if a kid had that problem here in the U.S., would they get surgery? When would they get surgery? If it's a death sentence in Africa. And I think that hopefully what we're doing is bringing up the issue, showing that it's an individual problem and it's a structural problem. We talk about it. I mean, it goes larger in our film. And then, in addition, we have impact campaigns. I think everyone here now has impact campaigns associated with their film that really do add up to real change beyond just a single kid getting surgery. We've just found out today that the government of Rwanda is committing major real action to helping end rheumatic heart disease in Africa. It's something as simple as strep throat and screenings and making sure that it's treated. So,
yeah, the why for us actually came in a phone call today, which was really the reason we made the film. The phone call was from the Rwandan Minister of Health saying we saw the film and we are now going to allocate resources to solve this problem in Rwanda. And they've committed to build a wing in a hospital in Rinkwavu, a small remote hospital, where they're going to construct a center of excellence in cardiac care, which is a first for the country. So for us, this was the greatest achievement.
What's going to happen to the dictator of Sudan? You have him momentarily in the film, and what's he going to think when he sees this movie? Are you worried about that at all? Or
It's coming to Keith's house tomorrow, actually, to screen it. So.
Well,
Is that true? No.
I do have an interesting story to tell for those who haven't seen the film, which is probably
but it has to stay in this room.
Yeah, it cannot leave this room, please.
You're very good about that here.
Yeah. I did not seek President Bashir to be in my film, but when we arrived in Rwanda, we were invited by the Sudanese ambassador to Rwanda over for dinner, and he did not tell us that there were going to be any other guests. It was just supposed to be a casual thing. Half hour into the dinner, in walks 5 guys, and one was the head of the Secret Service of Sudan, one is the head of the armed forces. It was pretty much every badass from Sudan in Rwanda. And at a certain point, I made a comment to the ambassador. He had 2 young boys that were serving us tea. We all were dying for a drink, but they wouldn't give us drinks, obviously. And I say to him, wow, your boys are so well behaved. And he's like, oh, well, I know, you have a wife, Kathleen, and your son, Liam, yeah? My son's 5 years old, and I couldn't think of a time when I'd put that online anywhere. So I said, well, how do you know this information? He's like, well, we have our ways. And it was...
And do you know where Liam is right now? At this moment? Do you see him in the audience?
He's with the babysitter in Khartoum somewhere.
The babysitter.
Exactly.
I also want to say, though, sometimes, as documentary filmmakers, we're always asked that question, what about the why? But oftentimes we're not asked about storytelling or filmmaking. And I sometimes think that gets left aside. I think we're all storytellers. We're all great filmmakers. You saw great examples of cinematography, editing, sound design, all these things that make our films, I think, just as great as the feature films that are at the Oscars. And sometimes I think the why comes from all of you. Like, I like that our films tell stories, and then you guys, like what you said tonight, they go home, think about it a day later, a couple days later, a week later. It sits in your craw, and you can't stop thinking about what's happening to this homeless girl. Are there other homeless kids out there? Why is this happening? And that's...
You want us to go home, and
I want it to stick.
It bothers us.
Right. I want it to stick with.
And if you travel anywhere else in the developed world, you don't see that scene that you see here in Los Angeles, in Toronto, or Stockholm, or Hamburg.
Or I want you to also say,
why is that, though?
Why are we cutting art? I just watched a girl who used art to better herself. Why is art being cut in our society? I just watched a homeless girl that probably would be nowhere, and so I want that to stick with people, and I want people to start thinking about it and talk, because there's a feature film here, How to Survive a Plague. That's about a movement, about people thinking about things, and it starts from a small idea. Your films do that. All these films do that. And I think that sometimes that gets lost. As documentary filmmakers, we're expected, for some reason, to be the big voice and the answer and everything, but it's not enough to tell someone's story that no one else would ever hear. And I think that's really important at least for me and for...
And I think what the two of you do really well, they were nominated for a documentary feature back, was it 2009? Was it? 8. For a movie called War Dance. And... It's an incredible film, but something that the two of you do in your films is you not only are really good storytellers, the craft that goes into your films. I mean, you saw just a little bit of it there with the art. It's really beautiful. I mean, it's obvious you spend a lot of time thinking about the shot, thinking about how this is going to come together, and you can be a good storyteller, but maybe not be a very good artist. And it's sometimes you don't have, a filmmaker doesn't have all those tools available. And you both of you seem to have that. I'm really, in the interest of full disclosure, I should say that when I made my first film, Roger and Me, his parents were a big help to me because I didn't know how to make a movie, and they were producers on 60 Minutes, and they were in D.C. and I was in D.C. and they
before the media got bad.
That's right. That's when news.
But I would loan they would give me their splicer, teach me how to do things. It was very so. Again, I thank your parents for that. Okay, so that's really.
I just feel like oftentimes it's brought up with us at film festivals. I don't know if you guys have the same.
Are
thing.
you an activist?
Are you like I've been on panels about activism. Both of us have.
Right, and I think that there's everyone's on a spectrum about why you make a film and what you hope to have happen with it. And I think that from where we come from, we want to create a world that you immerse yourself in, and we use our craft to do that, to really understand what is it like to be this person, and in all the different ways. And because she's an artist, that opens all these beautiful doors for us to be able to play with. And we work, Jeff Consiglio is here as an amazing editor, and he cut War Dance, and he cut this, and we spend an enormous amount of time to create this emotion and experience about what it is to be that person. And I think that sort of transforms and it brings people on a journey that you end at the end, you get to the end, and it's that thing that I don't want to stop thinking about this person. I can't get them out of my head, and we used our craft, I think, to be able to do that.
I think one way to answer that question when you're asked, do you consider yourselves activists, is, this is what I say. I just say, well, no, I consider myself a citizen in a democracy. That automatically implies I'm an activist, because if we're not active, it ceases to be a democracy, and that's just kind of, we all have to be activists in that sense because we're citizens. So, Mr. Alpert, I have watched your films since I was a child.
Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate it.
This man, I don't know how familiar you are with John Alpert. Yes. Man, I can go back literally into the 70s with you. And the first
That's
time,
when we were walking 20 miles to school in the snowstorm?
Yeah. Well, I just remember some of the first reports I saw coming out of El Salvador, Central America, Nicaragua. It was you and a camera, and somehow NBC Nightly News or whoever it was you were getting the gig from allowed you to go in and do these incredible reports. And it really personally inspired me. I think inspired a lot of other people to see what can the filmmaker do, because you really had to sort of insert yourself in a lot of these situations. And I'm sure you've been in many wars. You've done a lot of these films. I don't know if you know that. You've won a Peabody. You've won a couple DuPont awards. You've won Emmys. And you're still at it. And he has this incredible thing in downtown New York City called the Downtown TV, DCTV. And is that right, DCTV?
It is. Okay, so let's not talk about me, but let's talk about our center. Because we have a center in New York where we train 250 high school kids how to do this work. And we've shown the films to them, and they're all inspired by the great work that everybody here has done. We have equipment for independent filmmakers. We're building the first all-documentary, all-the-time theater, and I want everybody to come and show their films there. This is DCTV, and if any of you are in Chinatown in New York City, please come by and swap stories with us and let us help you make your films.
You're on Broadway and what?
Lafayette and White Street, right around the corner from the
Lafayette
Tombs. Yeah, so like when Michael gets arrested, he comes out of jail, he comes over to DCTV.
No, I don't get arrested because you wouldn't see me again. But you two have been silent here. Now you spent you were down there in Florida at the old folks retirement village, and I believe your grandmother lives there. Is that where
She lived there.
She's passed away now.
Yeah.
And so I assume that's where you got the idea to make this film, because anytime you spend 3 or 4 hours around. They're all sort of comedians in one way or another, and it's a very touching film and funny and sad too. You really. I have to say, when I got done watching it, I did not want to get any older than what I am right now, because it looks like an awfully lonely existence. How did you deal with that?
Well, first, I just wanted to respond to what you guys said about the craft and about our sort of role as storytellers and activists. And I think it's really interesting because I didn't start to make this film with the idea that I wanted to say something about aging. I made the film because I was experiencing something and I saw it and I wanted to share it with people and I wanted other people to feel what I felt when I was down there. And then it took sort of time, 10 years to be exact, to finish the film. And it was during that time that it became obvious that aging as an issue was very important for our country to be dealing with. In 2030, there'll be more than, I think it's over 25% of our population will be over 65. And so it became that later, but it didn't start out that way. And as these guys said, it started out as a desire to sort of exemplify this feeling that I had.
Cynthia, you made, you won the Oscar, actually, a few years ago. No, that wasn't you. Who won? Oh, you. There you are. Sorry. I confuse white people a lot. I'll come to you, the Oscar winner, in a second. All right. Now, how did you hook up with this this story? Because you didn't have anybody down there in the retirement village.
No, I didn't have any relatives in that particular retirement community. I work with my brother Todd on the production side, and we had seen many of the films that Sarah had edited, and we had wanted to work with her for a long time. The story that Sarah wanted to tell was very personal to us. I had two grandparents that actually had a different experience. They had spent their entire lives until their early and mid-90s living in the same house for close to 70 years. And we had discussed the issue with them, whether they, as they had aged, and my grandfather worked as a lawyer in New York City until he was 92, whether they wanted to move to a retirement community, whether they wanted assisted living. They were very independent, fiercely independent, and they didn't. And their experience was very, very different. On the other hand, my father's mother, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, did need help, and she did want to live in a community, and she did for a period of time. Until she reached towards the latter parts of her life, and she came home to live with my uncle, and she passed away living with him. So I had seen both sides of the spectrum, and from our perspective, we felt that this issue in particular, the issue of the elderly, is an issue that's largely marginalized in our country. It's not really addressed. The emotions that the elderly go through in our country in the latter part of their lives, their needs, their wants, their desires for love, their desires for friendship, for companionship. And those stories are rarely told. And as Sarah said, as our country begins to age, the National Institute for Aging has said in the next 15 years, 25% of our country is going to be 65 years or older. I mean, and they've said there is a silver tsunami coming, and our country is largely unprepared. So these issues were very personal for us because I dealt with these issues with really both sets of my grandparents.
I kept thinking of that John Prine song, "Hello in There." Anybody remember that song? Well, it's just a very, and I sat there thinking, this problem that you're showing in this movie, that can't necessarily be corrected with public policy or legislation. I mean, this is a very interpersonal human thing as to how we treat our parents and grandparents and what to do, and it's I think it really made me think a lot, and I think that the people who saw it feel the same way. Now, Freeheld was your documentary, so
5 years ago.
5 years ago,
Yeah.
yes, that's why. This was. Did anybody see this documentary 5 years ago? Freeheld. It documentary short. She won the Oscar for it, and it was a story about a police officer in a New Jersey town who was a lesbian, and the city would not allow her partner, right, to be on the health insurance to receive the same benefits, and she had, I think, cancer, right? And
she was dying of cancer. She was a policewoman in New Jersey, hadn't been on the force for 25 years, had been on the front lines doing a lot of drug busts, working with these macho big cop men, and had been quietly a lesbian all of that time, and had a long-term partner, female domestic partner, life partner, and wanted to leave her earned pension to her female life partner and was denied based on the gender of her partner, and it became this huge fight in New Jersey. I ended up living with her in the last 10 weeks of her life. Her partner was going to lose their house, was an auto mechanic, and was going to lose their house without the pension. And all of these macho, burly cops who wouldn't have considered themselves LGBT activists, gay activists, suddenly became activists because it became personal. And so that was an unexpected story that I ended up I just thought I need to be there, and ended up living with them. And yeah.
Are you surprised that 5 years later, how much farther the ball has moved down the field on this issue? I mean, because back then it seemed pretty hopeless.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
And I think I know your film got around a lot. It was played a lot. It played on TV, and I got to believe that some people saw that and just thought, well, this is just wrong.
Yes.
You know, I have to really kind of check my bigotry here because this just is. I'm a human being. This is just wrong. It was very. I think I really wanted to thank you again making that. Hey, Matt, Matt, you worked with John on the can, the people who pick up the cans. And now again, another thing we don't see in documentaries very much is humor. And so there you had this humor in your film, sometimes fairly dark humor. Nonetheless, anybody who's been to New York or lives in New York knows how this whole thing works. And again, as I said with the fines here, that I don't know of any other major city you can go to in the Western or the developed world where you see that, where you see people having to collect cans in order to survive. I can't think of, in my travels, of where that exists. So
we see it all around the world. Is the truth? If you go to Indonesia or Iraq,
you see it in the
there's been
third
great
world.
films about in Egypt about the gleaners there.
Yeah.
But to see it in our own city,
right.
I mean, we'd come home from shooting alternately outraged at the level of poverty right here in the richest city in the world, or right in our city, but inspired by the people who were in the film. So you ask about humor. That's not our humor. That's their humor. They're out there in the freezing cold, canning 20 hours a day. And they do it with a light heart, and they work so hard. And I think that's something that people don't understand about poverty in America right now, is that we have a real poverty problem. We have people going to bed hungry. We have people who want jobs that can't find them. And there's a lot of ink spilled on the 47%, the takers, and so on and so forth. These guys aren't takers. They're taking nothing except our discarded bottles and cans. And they push me to work hard. And I think when you ask that question about what a film is in terms of what you ask of an audience, we're all tempted, or at least I know I am, to say, get angry, and reach out to the audience and say, get angry. But I hope that by just watching the truth of what we see and the worlds that we slip into, you do get angry, and you do work to change things for the better.
Yeah, see, unfortunately, in our film, I mean, we look at your film, good things have happened, good things have happened, good things have happened. Unfortunately, in our film, the number of canners increases exponentially every single day. All the jobs in New York, they're gone. 85% of the manufacturing jobs disappeared. In our neighborhood in Chinatown, every single building used to be filled with sweatshops, and in those days, we would make movies about the terrible sweatshops. And we dream of the days when we can hear that sewing machine humming all night long. It's worse.
And I remember just reading in the paper after the hurricane, after Sandy, that one of those canning centers was flooded or was destroyed, or is that true? Or tell us about that.
One of the canners, the Chinatown Redemption Center, you didn't see it, but it's this underground place that you are immersed with dozens and dozens of people redeeming cans, and it was absolutely wiped out by Sandy. And there's been nothing done. One of the canners, not in our film, but one of the canners who was part of that community, drowned and died. And Mr. John, who is someone who's dear to our hearts in a way, you have to see the whole film to understand him. But we kept on following up with him, and he didn't have the wherewithal to go anyplace else to redeem his bottles and cans. And he'd be out there, and we'd bring him soup or we'd bring him tea. And week after week, he just was sort of hanging out. There was no social safety net. There was no one there to take care of him. And 3 weeks ago, he disappeared, and we were asking Lily, another woman in our film, what happened, and nobody knows what happened to Mr. John, and we fear the worst. In fact, and Walter, who you do see in the film, was killed by an Amtrak train near the tunnel that he lived in underground. There are so many people just clinging on by their fingertips.
Just that you've made the film. Yeah. Wow. We just have a few minutes left here. I'm just curious where all of you are based. Are you still in D.C.?
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C., yeah. Not the other D.C. Yeah. And
from there, you got to say Washington, D.C.
You have to say Washington.
Washington.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. It's like don't say Frisco, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm from San Francisco.
You are from That was your cue to say Frisco, yeah. And Jet?
I'm based in New York City. I'm actually based in the same block, actually, where Walter used to can. Yes, in fact, in just seeing this clip, and I've seen the film, but it just occurred to me, actually, in seeing the short clip, I could actually see my apartment. And I'd actually remember Walter. I remember Walter.
I'm a New Yorker, but I now live in Western Massachusetts in the Berkshires.
The People's Republic of Brooklyn.
I grew up in New York, but I live about 3-4 blocks away. Could walk here, but I won't. Ever. shoes, really.
You feel like a dork if you're walking in this town. It is.
You're
It's
an
really,
outcast.
it's weird. Yeah. People look at you as they drive by like, oh. It is kind of weird. But you live in New York now.
No, I live here now.
Oh, you still live here?
No,
Oh,
no, I'm
okay.
from New York. I live here.
You're from
now.
New York and you came.
Exactly.
I got it. Okay. And
I just moved from Liberia, West Africa, to Austin, Texas, and in San Diego. So I split my time between Austin and San Diego.
And you guys are New Yorkers. So 4 of the 5 films are essentially based on the East Coast and 1 here on the West Coast. So those of you who flew from New York, any problems at immigration when you got into LAX here? Or? No? No secret room?
There's a picture of all of us in Hollywood with a red line through it.
Well, just to close out here, I'm just wondering if there's any questions that you had of each other. You've seen each other's films. You seem very complimentary of each other's work. We all had dinner last night, and I'm just curious if there's anything you'd like to say or ask your fellow filmmakers.
I invite the women nominees to go during the Oscars to the women's bathroom, because that is where the real documentary is taking place.
Don't go just before your category comes up, though. All right, check the program. Anybody else? Any other bathroom issues? Anybody wants to?
I want to say one thing to Andrea and Sean. During War Dance, I was working with some kids from northern Uganda, and I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, but I'll share it with everyone. And Keith has done a lot of work in Uganda, and one of the girls that I was with, and I'm quite close to, and we lived together for quite some time, was from northern Uganda. And when the trailer for War Dance came out, she was living here in the States, and she watched that trailer over and over and over again. And it meant so much to her to see her people and her experience reflected in a way that was larger than life. And so I just want to thank you guys for that. For someone that I loved, that meant a lot to them. And I know a friend who's going through breast cancer right now. And just the idea that these experiences are being reflected and somehow acknowledged and witnessed, I think to me, that's why I feel so grateful to be in this company. And my brother was homeless and canned for a long time here on the streets of Hollywood, and it's just I feel very grateful to be in this company for that. So thank you all.
I think one thing that you had just said, Cynthia, about that just stuck with me about, you said, these guys, you didn't think they would care, but it became personal. And that's what I realized, like, when I was watching all these things, like, it becomes personal. And then that's what all these films, I think, and great documentaries do, is that it puts you on the inside of something. And so I feel like that when I watch all these things, is just how powerful that can be. And that's what our role is, I think, is these.
Yeah, and we're in a day and age where things are so fast. I mean, we have 2 kids, and I'm scared for them. I mean, things are just moving at light speed, and our films slow everyone down. I mean, I'm gonna say hi to guys that collect cans now, because they're real people. They're not crazy people collecting cans, which I'm sure a lot of people think. It's these films, all documentaries, give a chance for people to tell their story, and for all the normal people out there to stop and say, hey, these people are normal too. They just have a different story, and I might talk to them, or I might know one of them, or I could be one of them one day, so I should stop, take the time, and listen. And I think that's really, I just applaud all of us, because I think we're letting people do that. Take the time and listen, because we don't listen anymore in our society. We just absorb and absorb and absorb. We don't stop and just listen and take time. And I think it's very, very important. And this is one of the few crafts that allow us to do that, I think.
And I think also, Michael, that what Michael said last night at the dinner, and which you repeated earlier in the introduction, is 100% correct. There has been a major shift in media in this country, and there is a focus on filmmaking, and there's a responsibility as documentarians that certainly comes with that, and it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be a documentarian here in the United States, and certainly outside the United States. And there's a responsibility to tell these stories. And there's an opportunity. I mean, film is clearly the most powerful medium, I think, today to influence people and to affect change. And it's an honor, I think, for all of us to have that opportunity to at least attempt to affect change and change our society for clearly the better.
Well, I think that's. Go ahead, you were going to say.
I was just going to say just how wonderful it is to all of us to be up here, and our films are all going to be seen, and they're shorts. And, you know,
they've been seen already.
Been seen and continue to be seen.
And
they're
shorts.
Traveling.
And the shorts were, you know.
And you actually, this is the shortest group of short filmmakers I've seen
puny.
in the last 5 years. No, seriously, I noticed that at dinner last
Cameras are
night.
getting heavier.
Yeah.
Well, as an editor, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, but I think that we also want to thank you because when you ask why we make the films, we're making the films because we want to reach people like you. And when you turn out to watch our films, we're really most grateful. You know, so we feel a little bit like foreigners coming here to Hollywood. And to get this type of reception, the reception we've gotten from the Academy, we're really quite grateful. So thank you.
Well, this wraps up our shorts section tonight, and I want to wish all of you the best of luck on Sunday. Go there, have a good time. It's a great experience, something that you won't experience anyplace else. And it's and your fellow Academy members or the people who are Academy members here take this category very seriously, and we know that it's also. We've seen a lot of great documentary filmmakers come out of the shorts category, and so we're big supporters of it. Next year, we're planning to do actually a musical number in honor of documentary shorts on the show, so stay tuned for that. Let's give one more round of applause to these wonderful filmmakers here nominated this year. Thank you.